Evening and welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2024. All right, to the clerk, can you please take a roll call?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
Thank you. Next matter is the approval of minutes of the December 7th, 2023 regular meeting. Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll on that? Your motion to-
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk. Take the roll.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Thank you. That is approved. Next item is committee businesses, matters carried over. I see none. Moving on, next item is the public comments. This section is open to public comments only on docketed matters only. Is there anyone here in the chambers that would like to come and speak at all on any docketed items? This is for the Public Works. Is it a matter that's on the docket for Public Works? Okay, feel free to come up. We just need your name and address for the record, please.
It's Bert Karabitzis, 9 Peppermill Lane, Princeton, obviously. Sure, Carabitses. So, I'm a little concerned with all the development going on behind our homes. And the only thing I really want to get on the docket is just better transparency so we know what's going to be going there. Because it seems like we can't get any straight answers from the planning department. And frankly, I would love to have more greenery planted to prevent the noise that's going to be happening because of all the construction and even beyond the construction when all of these facilities are in operational mode. Over the years, we've lost a lot of trees, a lot of forest there, and it's becoming a problem. It's a big distraction. And again, just want to get on the record that we'd like better transparency because there seems to be a lot of mystery as to what's going to be going into that land. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the chamber that'd like to speak on any docketed items? Seeing none. Thomas, do you see anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on any docketed items here in the Public Works?
I see no public comment.
Great.
Councilwoman Vargas, could you just tell people
Number
how
7.
to say they want to speak only because I do know there were people who did want to speak.
Sure, sir. For those that are joining us on Zoom, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself if your raising your hand does not work. Otherwise, if you are calling in via telephone, I believe it's *9 or *7.
Star 9 if on a phone, yes.
Thank you. *9.
Actually, I have someone on the Q&A.
Hello, thank you for unmuting me.
Good evening, ma'am. If you can please let us know your name and address for the record.
Sure, I am here with my husband. My name is Trisha Gilmore. My husband's name is Michael Gilmore, and we live at 4 Peppermill Lane.
Thank you.
So to echo Mr. Karabitz's comments, I think he said it best. It's been impossible to have transparency to get simple questions answered, which is unfortunate because it leaves us with this option of coming to this public comment space, which really eliminates the ability to have a dialogue, which it just shouldn't be that way. So I have several questions about the development going on. So I'm not sure truthfully what's best. I can ask some questions, but again, we can't get answers. So some basic things that to put on record is that we don't want to go by just trust that they'll do the right thing, just trust that they'll follow the process, just trust that, we can't do anything. We have a situation where it's very frustrating as residents that should we have not mentioned this and raised awareness, we don't know what would have happened. We have a situation where Green Development has purchased a large parcel of land from Stamp Farms. And we know this developer has a history of being contentious. And we know from our neighborhood in Alpine that there was the situation with turbines, which happened very quickly on Johnston land. And then in Coventry as well with the same developer, also with the purchase of Stamp Farms owned land. So obviously there's a connection, good or bad. And so it's a little concerning as residents that this company purchased this land and started doing work, and it didn't seem to raise an eyebrow for anyone that's on the watch, if you will, in the best interest of the residents. Everywhere we ask is a different answer. I've been told there are no plans. I've been told, well, they know what they're going to do. They just haven't submitted plans. We were told, come to this meeting and we're going to hear the revealing of plans. We've been told the work was shut down by DEM. Then mysteriously it started. So we cannot get a straight answer. And as taxpayers, that shouldn't be the case. We should have someone looking out for our best interest. We should have someone that is concerned about the quality and character being maintained for a very high value neighborhood. As Bert mentioned, there is constant noise. We've lived here now for 13 years, and when we first moved in, you didn't even know there were trucking companies in the back. And now you cannot have your windows open on the weekend in the spring or summer, because that is what you hear, and it starts at 5 a.m. And that's continued to get worse. And when this developer comes in and starts clear cutting an entire forest at 5 a.m., it's alarming. And I can also tell you, we would like answers. We have a lot of questions. And just vague answers are not going to cut it for us. And things like, there was drilling. My husband has experience in this industry. There was drilling happening into the earth. I have sent videos. I have made posts. We have made phone calls. This drilling was not normal drilling. The sounds coming from there are not normal building sounds. So we just need someone that is on the watch on behalf of the taxpayers. We have had a history with the planning department, Mr. Pizzullo specifically, misleading the public. We've had, it just seems like we are encountering people that are not working on our behalf. So like I said, I have numerous questions that need to be answered, and we need a forum in which to do that. Me speaking and then not having the ability to have dialogue or answers to the questions, it's just not going to work. We need to know how this previous court case from 1986 and 1996, how they impact that development. Does it mean after the 1996 ruling that the developer is not to be bothered in any way? Some of the language in the court case is very concerning, that it seems like he has carte blanche to do whatever he would like without interruption. We would like to know what's going to happen to maintain a buffer between the neighborhood. We would like to know the facts of what's going on, aside from just being surprised that, hey, look, there's plans submitted and here's what's happening. So I will leave it at that, but turn it over to my husband if he has any comment.
So, hi, my name is Michael Gilmore. And I just wanted to throw in that some of the construction noises that we are hearing are not simply construction where they're leveling the land and getting anything prepared. It is, when we say drilling, there is sounds like excavation with a jackhammer, and this is starting incredibly early in the morning and into the evening under the cover of night. And we want to make this very clear to everybody that things are being done in the cover of night in order to make progress and get ahead of us. All
Mhm.
those who are watching don't realize that we have something going on that is moving faster than we're moving. And I just wanted to raise awareness along with everyone else that has stated the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Tom, anybody else on Zoom that would like to speak on public comments under docketed items only?
I see no one at this time. A reminder to the public, please use the raise hand function, or if you have an issue with that, please type in the Q&A.
Thank you.
I
That
see
being-
no public comment.
Thank you. Closed. Moving on with the agenda. Committee, I see a few council members on here. First item is under Councilman Donegan. Councilman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council Vice President. So the item that I asked to be placed on the docket is sewer issues in Stadium neighborhood, update from the city on their knowledge of any situation and what is being done to rectify any potential issues. Last week, at some point, there were, I received both notifications on social media as well as private communications regarding several, more than a handful of neighbors in a very specific part of the Stadium neighborhood around Legion Way who were all experiencing sewer issues and their sewer line being backed up. It was, so I just wanted to see if there was anything going on. So I'll just leave it at that for now. I know that the city, to their credit, did go out. Viola Water was there like the next morning, and just want to know what were the results. Has any more residents contacted the city? What was the conclusion of any inquiry that was made?
So we received 2 complaints about sewer issues on Legion Way. Only one I got the specifics of. There was a rock inside the sewer lateral that when Veolia was out there, they flushed it into the main line. And then as we pushed it to a manhole, we picked it up and took it out. What I think the reason why you're asking this question, I think, is to explain our flushing program, which is what the residents on Legion Way were trying to take advantage of, which I can give some information on. So a little bit of basic information. Every house has plumbing. The plumbing goes into their foundation and an underground sewer lateral that connects to a clean out and then further runs to the main line in the middle of the road. Just to define ownership, the city is responsible and owns the main line in the middle of the road. Property owners own the pipe from their foundation, inside their house, through their foundation, all the way to the middle of the road where it connects to that main line. As a courtesy, in the event of an emergency, a sewer backup, Veolia will go to your site and flush out from your clean out to the main line. They will not leave that site until you are running. So in this case, it was a rock that they were challenged with getting out of the pipe. Sometimes it's a collapsed pipe, but it's always a catastrophic situation in which Veolia would be out there for multiple hours. There's a lot of times there might be wipes that are built up inside the pipe, and a quick snake through the clean out will solve your problem. It'll solve your problem. But sometimes it requires jetting and a little bit more, strenuous work. I don't know if that answers the question on why they were out there. Basically, the advice that the city gives, if you have a sewer backup, step 1 is call Veolia Water. They will go out there and do everything that they can to solve the problem on their end, including we'll check our main line. We'll do the courtesy flush from your clean out to the main line. If we're not finding anything, then the assumption is it's from the clean out to your house, which is a property owner responsibility, and Veolia would walk away from that site.
Thank you. So, and I guess the reason I brought up geographically there being a concentration of concerns that I received, led me to and others to maybe have a larger concern that maybe there was something on the city side. So the result was there was no issues on the city side on the main line. That's correct?
Correct. As soon as we get a call from a resident about a backup, we will check our main line proactively every time. So once we got the call, we checked our main line. Everything was clean and flowing, no surcharges. So then they went into further investigation inside the sewer lateral.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Any further questions on this topic or discussion? Nope. Right. Thank you, Director. Moving on, next item, Councilwoman Manzulli, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So my questions are all, and I'm sorry for the long paragraph. I just wanted to get everything in there so that we could just speak freely. I received several complaints from neighbors in Alpine Estates neighborhood over the course of many days at all different times of day. Complaints of sound, which sounded like site work happening in the prior Stamp Farm land, or known as a Western Industrial Complex. And like the neighbors who have spoke so far said, there's been a little bit, I don't know if it's a lack of transparency or just some confusion as to exactly what can be happening on that land right now. And I hate to see people going back and forth commenting online and maybe not having all the information. So some people thought that DEM had shut down whatever was happening there at some point and had questions around that. People said they heard and sent me videos of it sounded like jackhammers or some kind of drilling into the ground, and wanted to know about the permits that they pulled to be doing that work and what times of day they could be doing it. So I did reach out to Director Pizzullo, who told me that no plans have been submitted for that site, but that he had been out there with DPW to check it out and that everything seemed okay, and that DEM was aware of what was happening there, but that he couldn't really tell me what they were permitted to do because they hadn't put any plans to do anything yet, but that they could clear their own land, and that if there was sound, that was too loud, the police could be called to enforce sound ordinances. So I just want to hear from the director, the acting director of DPW, what he knows, because the neighbors obviously have a lot of questions, and if you could answer some of those within reason, I would appreciate that, just so that, going forward, we can have more of an open dialogue. I did get to speak to the attorney for that developer, did call me today and assured me there's no windmills going there. They were just clearing their land. They want to put up warehouses. So I think that should, reassure some people, but if you know anything more, I think that people just want to know what's happening there, and they want to know more about the court case and the wetlands and berms and what the jurisdiction the city has over what's going on.
Director, absolutely. Director, before you provide a response, Councilwoman, can you tell me exactly, is there an address associated? I'm just trying to look it up on my Google Maps. Is there an address that I could type so that I could actually put a bird's eye view here?
Daniel's Way,
Sorry?
Daniel's Way.
Daniel's Way. Okay.
That will pull it up.
Thank you so much.
Yep, I'm happy to give all the information I have on this development, although admittedly it's not all the information. From what I understand, and Director Pizzullo would know more about the private development than I would know. I'm more concerned about the development that the city is going to take over, the roads, the drainage, the curbing, stuff like that. But I will just give you all the information that I have. I have a Supreme Court decision which approved the developer, and this is dated in 1996, which gave the developer permission to develop on this site within the freshwater wetlands. From what I've heard, that is still standing today and cannot be neglected. This is in stone, and this is what is allowed on the site. That's my understanding. Since then, they've gone through the City Development Plan Review Committee, and this is back in 2003, when they got a preliminary decision, in 2006, when they got a final decision, which allowed them to develop the roadway infrastructure, nothing on any private property. I too have heard rumors about a warehouse or wind turbines. I have not seen any plans. No plans have come to Public Works. I don't want to speak for planning, but I don't believe any plans have gone to planning either on what they are proposing to develop on that site. As for the noise, planning and Public Works went out to the site. There is a large jackhammer out there, which is an attachment to an excavator. That's what I'm going to guess the loud noises. They probably found a boulder. And instead of picking it up and moving it, they just went right through it. That's common construction practice when you're dealing with large projects like this. So I can tell you, they have the approval to build the roads out there, install the curbing, put in that detention basin, connect utilities. They have the approval for that in the city of Cranston. As for on the private development side, in the private property, I have no idea what is going up over there.
And Director, so what other permissions have to come through to you? Just what when they bring plans forward through planning and everything that comes your way, you'll see at that point in time?
Yeah, the first stop would be development plan review, which is a little bit of a technical review committee, which I'm a part of that, as well as traffic, fire, building inspections. And that's where we give initial comments before they submit their final design. Once they've gone through us and got their approval, they will go through zoning and the plan commission. They would need approvals at both of those steps as well. They would have a more concrete plan by then. None of that has happened for anything on private development, as far as I'm aware. And I've done quite a bit of research on it.
And so just to clarify what you just said, so there is the roads, the sewage, everything there, they have the ability to finish right now. They have the prior approvals still stand, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and they have a bond for those roads or no?
They did have to take out a bond. The bonds are in $2006, so I'm actually working with the applicant's attorney to update their bond to a larger amount. So I'm in the process of getting that bond for the public infrastructure, yes.
Okay, and have you been in communication with DEM about this, or has that been Director Pizzullo that was in communication with DEM? Are we clear about DEM's role in this? I just want to kind of curb some of the rumors about DEM shutting it down, because I don't believe that was, my understanding is that wasn't recent, but maybe Attorney Videcchia does have that court case as well, and I don't know if he knows anything else about this. I just want to reassure the neighbors that what they're doing on that site now, as far as we know, they have permission to do until they put in plans to do more.
I have not talked to the DEM. I know Director Pizzullo has talked to the DEM. I don't know where that conversation left off. I do know that they have multiple DEM permits that are posted on site. I'm not sure what's included in those permits, what they're allowed to do, if that's just the public side or if that's also private side. But again, I believe that those permits are still valid today.
Okay. Director Moretti, do you know anything from Director Pizzullo?
Yeah, if I may, I did get Mr. Pizzullo was unable to attend this evening, but I had a briefing from him of sorts today. So maybe it'd be helpful if I can unload what he's told me. It might answer some questions. Don't know if he'll fill in all the gaps, but I'll kind of even read you a little statement that he had that relative to future development. He said he will work with the developer and our solicitors to form a better picture of what is planned to happen at this site. At this point, it seems like most of the site clearance and disturbance has been substantially completed, and the site is ready for whatever land development proposals that may be considered. Development at this site is still expected to follow the normal course of action through the planning, design, plan review committee, zoning, et cetera, prior to any construction. And as far as he can see, it's been, things have been transparent to date. A couple of other anecdotal notes that I made in discussions. He had indicated, and I'm parroting what he had mentioned. He says that for some reason, he believes that DEM is not able to enforce at this site. I'm not sure what the ramifications of that is, but I just want to pass that along. Certainly, there's going to be more questions to follow up, and we'll be happy to follow up after this discussion. But he's saying essentially that at the site, as the director indicated, that it's really been site clearance at this point, but there's been no development at this point. And it is an industrial zone site. That's really it. And other than what the director said, just something to mention though, certainly I was listening to the Gilmores and anyone here, that if you do have concerns, please feel free to give a call to the mayor's office, myself, come into the office and with this development, happy to sit down or listen to you, and we'll get happy to get back to anyone with questions. We don't want the public to feel as if they're not, that their comments, questions, concerns aren't welcome.
Okay, thank you, Director. I had told the neighbors that they could contact Director Capuano about this, and they said they did not get too much from your office. That's why they kept coming to me. I know there's been a lot going on, so I hope that we can set up a meeting to speak with the neighbors one-on-one, or just have a conversation with the Director
Yeah.
Capuano so that they can come in, because they want to come in and speak with you. They want help on
Sure.
this. They don't want to do it in this forum.
Sure, I'm not aware that they weren't satisfied with Ms. Capuano's feedback, but first I heard of that, but absolutely, please, we apologize if there's some miscommunication there.
And also, so who, this might, I don't know if it's for you or for our DPW director, but at what time can they be doing work there? Is it 7 AM? Or as, you know, the general,
Noise ordinance,
usually, you know, it's for 7 AM before they can start work?
6 to 10.
Because people, I've been told that there's work being done at 5 AM. And so
5 AM for sure is beyond the ordinance. I don't know it.
I think it's,
We believe it is 7, and I believe to 10 PM. Is that correct, Solicitor? To 10 PM. Does that include weekends?
they can be drilling into the ground at 10 PM, isn't it 5 PM?
Okay.
Why don't we have I'll give the solicitor some time to just research that. I don't believe it goes till 10 PM. And I think there could be some restrictions also put in terms of the time on any type of excavation or drilling as well. I think I've seen it in my time here on the council. Councilwoman Renzulli, while the city solicitor is looking for that information for you, okay, I saw Councilmember Ferry's hand up. Did you still have a question?
Yeah, I want to ask Mr. Mateus a question. Is it common practice that if you give out permission to do something in 2008 or 2006, whatever the date was, that 16 years later, it doesn't expire, but the approval never expires?
I can tell you that an engineering stamp expires. I'm not sure about a Supreme Court judgment. From what I understand, that judgment is what does not expire, which lays out that they're allowed to do this work.
But I asked that if we,
Solicitors, I think has a response to your question, Council.
I think the question, normally permits, and Director Pizzulo would know this better, but normally permits to build expire within a year. At the most, 2 years. But this decision that's been referenced and discussed by the courts, obviously, I have not had the opportunity to review that. That is a very unusual course of action for a court to take in issuing a preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order. In this case, it was a preliminary injunction, is my understanding, completely forbidding a state agency from enforcement action. That makes no sense to me. And I would have to go back. We would have to look at that file. We would have to read the complaint, all the pleadings, and then we'd have to read the court's decision. I don't know I know the director said Supreme Court case, but I don't know that that was a Supreme Court case. I think it was probably a Superior Court case because the Supreme Court does not issue preliminary injunctions. That's something that a Superior Court would do. And why it was never challenged and what is the scope of it at this point in time, I don't know. But we're talking nearly 40 years ago, that the Superior Court decision, or was it 1996? 96, okay, so almost 30 years. I've got to tell you, I've never heard of such a thing in the court system. Never heard of it.
Right, so my next question is, are we going to make sure that they're supposed to be able to do what they're doing right now? If something is that long and it's unprecedented, maybe they weren't allowed to build the roads. Did we look into it? Did we make sure that they didn't have permission? or that they did have permission. I mean, somebody had to figure out that they were doing something, and I know the thing went back to 2008, but maybe because he said it's unprecedented, maybe they weren't allowed to do that.
It very well may not be valid anymore. I can say them resuming this work was not permitted by the city. We were made aware of this by residents calling in saying, what's going on back there? So we never gave them the green light to start building roads again. This is something that we found out similarly to everyone else.
But they've done nothing they didn't have permission to do. We're not really sure of that. I'm just trying to think common sense here. We're not really sure that they should have been able to build those roads, are we?
You would have to have a lawyer read the court to give you a definite answer on that.
So I'm confused.
1 second. Just going to turn over. Did you have a question, Councilman, or I know Councilman?
I don't know if it's a question, but I'm a little, I don't know, I think the word is exasperated. All right, so you have to have a permit to make a road in Cranston. I'm new at this, but I'm gathering if I'm gonna make a road on my property, is that true? You have to have a permit?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have to have a permit to build a road? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm speaking. Oh,
A road that's going to become a public through.
so on this property, it seems like this is, I'm just kind of picking it up. I don't know if everybody's been doing this since 1996, but so do you have to have a permit to make a road on, for a development on this property, correct?
Correct.
All right, and we're not sure that they have that permit? Is that what I'm hearing?
They do have the approval from 2008 from the City Plan Commission to build a road.
And a little while ago, I think I heard from a solicitor that permits do expire. Is that correct? So why, I mean, the residents have a point. Why aren't we stopping this? I don't know who can answer this, but can anybody answer it?
So it looks like the city solicitor may be looking into some things. Do we have any?
Yeah. No, not at all. I, just so you know, I learned of this afternoon. I received a communication from Councilwoman Renzulli, and she had some questions, and she had sent me a copy of an email that was received from Attorney Mancini. This is the first the solicitor's office is learning of this. And this goes back almost 30 years. So this is something, as I told her, I'll tell the committee, this has to be researched. We can get right on it, obviously, but this is something that needs to be done in conjunction with planning, with Director Pizzullo rather, and the legal department to see exactly what took place, what they're allowed to do, whether the court order still has any kind of vitality to it. At this point in time, everything is unknown. And like I said, this is just a development from this afternoon.
Attorney Radecchia, I think what I'm hearing, and I could be wrong, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I'm going to turn over to, I know Councilman Papalaskis has a question, and I see our attorney, Steve Angel, is also on camera. I'm not sure if he wants to also provide any input on this, but at least on my end so far, what I'm hearing is that this came at least to your attention just today.
Yes.
It looks like you may need some additional time, but at the same time, we also don't want to continue. We don't want the folks continuing the problem that's been ongoing, which is the noise, the drilling, everything else that goes with it. So do you need some more time
No,
to research?
actually,
or-
the noise ordinance, the way our noise ordinance is designed is the parameter for the application of the noise ordinance per se is from 7 a.m. It is 7 a.m. and it is until 10 p.m. However, the way we adjust, some people may say 10 p.m. is very late to emit noise somewhere. That's true. However, where the ordinance addresses that concern is that, and there's a chart, And if you're in a residential area and noise is coming in, the level that's permitted is much lower. So you can make noise, but it can't be disturbing. It can't be the type of noise that's going to cause a disturbance. The only way to determine that is just like the issue we had with yard works. I'm sure everybody remembers that. We would need a noise meter if they're making noise at 9:30 at night, okay? But it does not exceed the limit as contained in the ordinance. And for residential areas, I believe it's 50 decibels. There is no violation. I'm no sound expert, but I have to presume that 50 decibels is a very low degree of noise that wouldn't cause a disturbance. Now, if it's in excess of that, even if it takes place before 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m., I'm sorry, even if it takes place between the hours, the permitted hours, if it exceeds the allowable decibel level, they're in violation.
Right.
So it would have to be measured.
Thank you. Councilman Paplaskas, I know you've been very patient. Thank you. You wanted to comment and I'm going to turn it to the Attorney Angel. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Attorney Angel, did you have a comment at all on this? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
want to put you on the spot, but I.
no, thank you. No, that's what we're here for, to be put on the spot. So just to give some context, a quiet dishwasher that costs a lot of money emits about 44 dBs. So 50's pretty low. John's right. However, he's also right about the fact that this is brand new to all of us. So this needs to be looked at. It certainly is not a Supreme Court ruling of any kind, since it would appear that it's an injunction. What legal effect that has really depends upon the complaint in the matter and how it was handled. So, so how do we control it? I mean, I think you control it in the meantime with code enforcement, but at this point, to take a hard and fast stance, to answer Councilman Wall's question, which was do permits expire? Yes, they do. Permits do expire, but if there is in fact a judgment in this matter, and the judgment has been recorded with the land, there's some consideration that what effect that may have. Again, I don't know until we see it. It's new to me too.
Through the
Thank
chair, if I may, just to follow up on Steve's
Sure.
comments. So Steve, I don't know if you can see me or not, doesn't matter. This order.
I can, John. It's a nice tie.
Thank you. It's from Italy. It's interesting that as I read this, that DEM is the defendant, not the city. So there is nothing that I see within this order that enjoins or restrains the city in any way from enforcing our requirements and our ordinances. So that's an important point. It seems to me that, and I'm kind of speculating, and it's a little bit of conjecture, but apparently there was some type of beef between these developers and DEM. I mean, that much is obvious. And I haven't had time to go through the entire, there's an attachment to the order. It's a consent agreement, and it's about, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages. I haven't read through it. But with that being said, this only applies to DEM. So this has nothing to do with our ability to enforce all of our requirements. So that should help. This is really unusual. I don't know if you've seen anything like this, but I've never seen a state agency restrained and enjoined from essentially, it's almost a no trespass order. They just can't even apparently go to the property. So this is something, as I said, we have to look into, but I think it's very important to note that this does not apply to the city of Cranston.
Thank you.
John, what's the CA number?
CA 96-0497.
Can you repeat that again?
96-0497.
Was it, what county was it, John? Do we know?
It says Providence Superior Court. I'm trying to read the judge's signature, but
Thank you.
I can't. Oh, I'm sorry, Judge Israel. Judge Israel, February 16th, 1996.
I was in high school back then. All right, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yeah, I was a freshman. So, I remember my questions. Director Matus, my questions will be directed to you. You said that you went up there. Have they put any curbing in or asphalt, or has it just been clearing trees and boulders?
There is curbing and asphalt along the roads.
New roads from
New-
the extension of the cul-de-sac that used to be at the end of Daniel Way?
Recently paved roads, correct, yes. The new cul-de-sac on Daniels Way, as well as around, up to the retention basin and around running parallel with Daniels Way is an extension of Western Industrial.
Okay, I was just looking at the satellite photos going back, 10, 12 years, and what he just explained was a dirt road. So it's almost as if they paved what was existing, but it was a dirt road up to that retention pond in the north corner of the property.
Yeah, that's correct. They did start work over a decade ago and stopped, and they've picked it up again.
Okay, my second question to you is, either to you or to the administration, that planning commission report from 2006 that approved the roads, can you send a copy of that to the entire council, or send it to Tracy or Rose and have them send it? Because I'm going to assume that report has maps too of the road that they were planning to build in. I'm just curious
Yep.
what the attention was from back then. If you can get us copies, that would be great.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Capompi.
Thank you, for Council Vice President. I just got a question for the lawyer. Can the city legally put a cease and desist order on what's going on now?
Well, that would depend on so many factors. It depends on what they're seeking to do, whether they have the appropriate permits. These permits, I don't know when they were taken out. This matter is extremely old, so that's an unknown variable there. The short answer is, yes, you can place a cease and desist, but you need to have very solid legal grounds to do so. And, in the hour I've been here, clearly there's not enough information to make that determination at this point.
Can you look into it and get back to us at the next public work meeting?
We're going to have to look into this from two aspects. We're going to have to, this has to be a collaboration between the legal department and planning and with Director Pizzullo, just to see what is going on and what the processes were back in the day. And it's a very unusual. I've never seen anything like this where there's been a delay of 30 years between making a proposal and not acting on it for 30 years. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if Steve has. I've never seen anything like that.
As part of your research, will we be speaking to the company that's actually doing this work?
They're represented by Attorney Mancini. I know John. We all, so does Steve, we all move in the same circles. And he's been before the council and the committees before. So my understanding is he's on vacation. So he's not around, but in fact, he's involved in the Oddworks litigation. So I'll speak with him at some point. I don't know when he's coming back or anything like that, but to put everybody's mind at ease as much as we can, I do not see anything happening there right away. If some type of action is going to be taken, the legal department needs to be kept abreast of this. I mean, like a minute after it happens, because if it becomes necessary, if there's a disagreement as to what they're allowed legally to do, it has to be brought to our attention so we can act on it immediately, because we would have to go into court on an emergency basis. So, there are other people that we need to rely on here. We can't, just the legal department alone can't do it.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about the next public work meeting, and hopefully Director Pizzullo can be here also.
Thank you. Council President Marino.
Thank you. In terms of just practically speaking for day-to-day solutions for the residents, there were complaints this evening that the activity is occurring before 7 a.m. And when they say after hours and the cover of night, that could potentially mean after 10 p.m. And so my question is, if it's 5 in the morning and they're hearing this work going on and or observing this work going on, what practically speaking should these residents be doing? Is there a number they should be calling? What do you want them to do?
Yeah, call the police department. Police is aware of this development, if you will, and the command staff, and they're aware. So if anything's happening at the time, it's best to call police 942-2211, and they'll get someone right out there.
Thanks.
Councilwoman Zuli.
Is everyone done? I don't want to interrupt.
I can circle back. Go ahead.
So I just want to say, Director, I think that residents have tried to call the police, so I don't know if between then and now further conversation has been had, because whoever they spoke to there told them that they are assuming that the developer had the permit to be working at that time. So I know that that was very upsetting to residents. I know I since personally called Major at the police to make him more aware of this. So I hope going forward, when they call, if they do call at 5 a.m., because people don't love calling the police anyway. So if they're calling at 5 a.m. or they're calling at night, people are talking about this all over the internet. So they're hearing, there's multiple people hearing the sound. There is something happening. The police I just hope will go. And I trust, that they will if you've had further conversation with them. But at the time, the first couple times they were called, no one went.
I can't attest to that, but I'm a neighbor too. I live in Alpine Estates. In fact, I live on Basil Crossing, probably the closest street down the end to this activity. But I trust our police department's responsive. We haven't had a lot of complaints about them. And I know the command staff is aware of it, and I think they probably did a good job of flushing it through the department. I'll make sure that the department's aware of this activity, but I'm sure they already are.
I'm going to piggyback real quickly on what you just said. So at what point do we know whether this developer is fully aware of the time that we have in our books that they can and cannot operate after a certain time? Because 5 o'clock is obviously absurd, right? But so we can send the police over. I just want to make sure that they on their end also know, like, you can't do any type of drilling after a certain time or before a certain time. Because the police can go and I'm not going to say what they can or cannot say or will say, but I'm just making sure that we're communicating correctly. So when they have whether it's a police officer, whomever it is, any type of enforcement at all, they understand what's the reason why.
We could remind or make it clear to the developer, or city be happy to contact the developer to make sure they understand the noise ordinance restrictions.
Okay. All right, great. Did you have another? Move on.
Director Marty, I'm assuming you're the only person I can really ask this question here. It seems as though I don't want to make any kind of judgment here, but the legal department did not know that this was going on. And if I had not contacted Attorney Videcchia today to say, are you the solicitor tonight? Then he would not have this court case to even reference if anybody brought it up. However, the planning department has had this and had information from the developer's attorney as far back as November 16th, because that's the date on the email that was forwarded to me. So we cannot, as the legislative body, we cannot direct directors to do something. I know it's in our charter that we can't do that, but the planning department knew about this. They're working with DPW to go check on things, but DPW is not sure if the permits they have for the roads are still relevant. There's a court case that we keep referencing that Attorney Videcchia kindly reminded us is separate from the city's jurisdiction, but he wouldn't even have known this was going on if I didn't contact him today, or he would have really been on the fly tonight when he got here. So why is it that planning is not here when I clearly put that, any and all departments need to provide the information? If he's the main person who knew what was going on and didn't tell the legal department on his own, it's been almost 2 months that something's been brewing there. People knew it was brewing, and I'm assuming that maybe you didn't even know if the legal department didn't know. what's the rules as far as in the administration of what planning has to tell who what? Because work obviously got done that we're not sure should have been done, and I hope that it was permitted, but if it wasn't, it's already done. So it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission sometimes in general in life, and we don't want that happening with development.
I think for the sake of people understanding the process, the planning department does not report to the administration, does not report to the mayor. There's a planning commission to which it's accountable. So they're kind of an autonomous group. So I don't want to speak on their behalf one way or the other. So they are responsible for this part of the development. Certainly if it gets into the building construction stage, then it's the permitting process with our inspections departments. And then the city pretty much takes, I'll say the administration or the Department of Inspections takes over, which is under the authority of the mayor. But certainly with the mayor's office is here, once alerted to a legal issue, we'll be getting involved. We're alerted to this as a potential legal. I did not know about this lawsuit. It was not explained to me until I'm listening to this evening in the history of it. Certainly Attorney Verdecchia, and I'll be following up on our end now that we're aware of it. And again, as Attorney Verdecchia says, there's a lot of questions around their ability to proceed or not to proceed there. So we could say on notice, we are involved now. Happy to follow up from the legal end. And again, I'm not being disparaging at all towards the Planning Commission nor the director there, because I don't know all the circumstances, because again, this part of the project is largely with them, except the public works end of it, just making sure that bonding is appropriate and it's meeting our building codes, if you will, relative to construction and development of that plat.
So the permits, that comes through which department, through building, through DPW, or through planning?
Building permits would be inspections when it comes to that point in time.
No,
And
but
just, you know,
the
for the
permits they
record,
would have to have right now that we're questioning whether they're still valid. Who did those come from?
I'll defer to legal on that.
Okay. And I'm just curious if I come into the situation again in which, and I'm not disparaging planning either, I'm just saying that it's clear that they knew something was going on. Neighbors also knew something was going on. I don't live there, so I don't know unless they call me, and you don't know unless, and legal doesn't know unless planning tells them. So I think neighbors feel like don't have anyone looking out for them, which is problematic, and I know no one's intention. However, when planning is not reporting to legal, should I be going to the planning commission and giving public comment and saying, hey, how do you guys know that this is going on? Like what is the chain of command? I know that the planning director reports to the planning commission, but he's had this information and I don't know who he shared it with, but it hasn't been you and it hasn't been with the solicitor's department. Is it the planning commission's attorney? Is that who he's supposed to tell? I just want to know because this stuff can't happen in the dark. It always comes to the light.
More succinctly, what's the question? I'm getting lost in the question.
Who does the planning director have to report this type of information to? The planning commission, to his attorney, to who? Who should know about this happening before because neighbors shouldn't be the ones that have to bring this up if the planning director knew.
We'll defer. Really, it sounds like a legal question to me.
When you say who should the planning director tell, I'm not.
All right, so the planning director was having communications with the attorney for the developer regarding this court case and knew that they were building roads there. And you and the solicitor's office did not know. So who's supposed to tell who? How is the city supposed to monitor these things if the right people are not being told?
Councilwoman Mazzoli, I'm gonna.
Thank you. The way I see things, and I did not have any direct reach out from anybody in that area, and I can tell you what I do in situations where somebody would, and if I would have, if they did, which is that I would have sent an email to Gina Capuano, CC'd Director Moretti, and said, residents are complaining of such and such a build, and do they have the proper permits? Because it's not, even if planning gives approvals for a development, they still have to obtain the permits that are necessary. And by sending that email, I would mention that then please advise if inspections has issued any permits relative to that development and are they current? And then the administration would take the ball from there and get the ball rolling in terms of looking at what is going on, sending an inspector out, if there are proper permits, if there are not, because if they're not, then inspections is the proper authority to issue the citation with the letter and get the ball rolling from there to shut down the project. That's basically the process that I think we all should be following.
Okay,
So
Director Capiano was on these emails, so somewhere in there, I informed her though, but it was not Director Pizzulo that informed her, and DPW was going out there, so people, it just hasn't all come straight to where it was supposed to go, which I think has lengthened the process that they could do what they wanted there.
So it seems like there's a lot of questions that we've been all asking, either the administration or the one of the legal counsels for the city, Mr. Verdecchia, that's here with us this evening. To me, it makes sense to continue this this subject. And I'm going to leave this on your core. I would recommend not only continuing this to the next Public Works Committee meeting, but unless the Attorney Verdecchia thinks that he may have some information for the council communication, I would leave that up to the council president to decide whether or not, or any one of us, whether or not we're gonna even have information by then, right? But at least for the Public Works Committee, I would at least recommend it. Director Murray, I think you want to add
Yeah,
anything?
please. What I'll do is get a hold of Solicitor Marcella, who handles these types of things for the Planning Commission. They have them get involved and research this. We'll get on that tomorrow. What I was aware, just so you know, was I was aware people were quite, what I was aware in the mayor's office of people saying, what's going on back there? Frankly, not realizing or knowing or being in the position to know if permits were pulled or that lawsuit. Didn't know about that. Typically, it's not what we do. It's not in that jurisdiction. But so we're unfortunately answering the questions as to what is going on, but didn't know there was the question about, is there a lawsuit in the depths of this that you were aware? So now that we're aware, we'll certainly tip off the solicitor responsible for zoning in this type of thing.
Thank you. Okay. If there's any further questions, can we actually send them maybe to the clerk, and clerk can share that information, responses to your questions or any questions that any of us may have that could be shared with all of us. And then perhaps we get a little bit more responses and educated on this subject. And then come prepared, not that we're not today, well, somewhat, right? This is all information based on what they're providing us as well today. Circle back. But at least between now and then, it might, a month may sound like it's really far away, particularly to the constituents that are here with us this evening. So maybe, if we need a special Public Works Committee meeting before then, assuming we have the right information to discuss, I certainly entertain that as well.
This is substantial, so please feel free to
I appreciate it.
contact me directly. It's a substantial
We do
issue.
have an ordinance committee meeting as well to move on, but I also want to be very mindful of the residents that are here with us this evening, those who are not able to make it. I know they have concerns as well, and there might be some that are with us this evening. But I do want all of you to know that now that this has been brought to our attention, thank you, Councilwoman Renzulli, for doing that as well. That any additional questions that we get from the administration or any information that we get as well from our legal counsel, I'm sure Councilwoman Renzulli will be in touch, but feel free to reach out to the administration as well. Looks like there's a meeting that may be arranged at some point on this, sooner rather than later. All right.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The next item that is on here is an item that I put on the agenda myself. To the administration, it was just an update on the Smith Street Playground, the Edgewood Playground regarding the maintenance funding timeline of completion and the bid process. As we all know, we all voted unanimously to pass some ARPA funding for our playgrounds. And so I just wanted know, and I just got the email from you, Director, this afternoon, so I have not taken I haven't had the time since the time you sent it this afternoon to dive into it and read everything, so I may have additional questions for you that I may not have right now, so I'll why don't I give all of that a read first? And then from there on, I do note that in the email, you did say that there was a bid that was already awarded on the Edgewood Playground. So that's already been selected and awarded. Do we know what the next steps are? Does the admission, okay.
You have both Smith Street and Edgewood
I
first?
do, I'll start with Edgewood first.
Okay, yeah. The bidding process went out. There were 4 bids received back. One bid we thought was just, and they all qualified, they all met the specs. One of them was a bit higher, kind of dismissing that bid. So trying to decide what is the best option. And so the mayor and I sat down and said, who's better to know than the children of Edgewood Highlands? So the children of Edgewood Highlands have voted, and they've selected option B by a 2/3 vote in the school. So they were all qualified. And so it was really the children that elected this playground that met all the specifications and designs, because all three qualified. It's pretty much a matter of opinion. We thought the experts, being the kids, would be the ones that would be best choosing that. So
I appreciate that. I love that the kids are involved with that, and on the school side and the parents. I got an email from the PTA who did not know where we were on this, so I don't know if the PTA knew that the children were actually part of
Well,
this or not,
well,
but anyway, that.
the
we can
principal
discuss
was
that.
involved. We thought he was a
Okay.
key person in
Okay.
this.
All right.
He was the one that led the
So-
effort, in fact.
All right, and it's an important bid, so I just want to make sure that while the children are involved, which is great, it's a bid that is everything that we're asking for, at least is in there within the
They would not have
range
been
of funding
presented
that
to
we've
the
approved.
children if it
Okay.
wasn't. So all
Yeah,
three
but I
met
do,
that,
I
met the
do, I do
qualifications.
love that inclusivity. And speaking of inclusivity, I hope that there's some sensory items as well.
There it is. Yeah.
In there. So again, I'll give that a read and circle back with any questions on that, but I appreciate your response on that. And so it looks like hopefully we'll get the ground running as soon as
Oh,
spring kicks
well,
in.
weather permitting, the bid's been awarded now as of last evening. And it is, well, it's one of those, as you know, the poured, I forgot what the poured in place surfaces, so it's not gonna, this weather's not gonna cooperate. But the demolition, if you will, of the existing playgrounds can be done in-house to save a substantial amount of money by DPW.
Thank you.
So be ready for the spring.
I appreciate it. I do have one ask, and that is to just keep all of us here on the city council in the loop in terms of just the playgrounds in general. Like, I would have loved to know that the children were participating, like when during that process. I know you mentioned it to me, but I didn't know if that took place or it hadn't. So that would just be helpful to kind of know.
Sure.
Just, because I just as an FYI, if we can, on the line, as we along the process.
Didn't think that would be a controversial one.
Yeah, all right, thank you. The other part of that is a Smith Street.
Yep.
Again, I know that bid went out. Was that also awarded?
Yes, it has. So the bid has been awarded to a company, Compan Inc. Mr. Tomasielli gave me an update, and what they had to do is just amend the CDBG plan, which they're expecting approval on over the next several weeks. If approved and everything's anticipated to go forward, if that's the case, it should be approved by the end of February. So we'd be ready to move on it, weather permitting.
All right, great, if you want to along in terms of kicking off any construction or renovations in that area.
Sure.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, the next item that we have here is I'm so sorry, Councilwoman Renzulli.
Sorry, I just wanted to say we had a Parks and Recreation Advisory meeting last night, the first one. So I'll now be chairing that committee. And so we did also get a similar update. We found out about the Edgewood Highlands. Just so you know, the demolition, this is what I have from, I was going to give this at the council, but if you want me to say it now. The bid was awarded on 1/9, demolition and removal of the existing structures and floor service. Were supposed to be done on school vacation, weather permitting, but then people were out and they couldn't do it. So, because we're trying to do it with in-house to save money on doing that. So that should be starting. And let's see. Smith Street, same thing. That was awarded on 12/6. And Compan's going to install all their equipment upon arrival. And then I have kind of a listing of what they plan to do on all the playgrounds. So if you'd like for at the full council meeting, I can type something up and bring that there or send
Yeah,
it to everybody.
that would be great. When's the next Parks Advisory meeting?
They
Park
they
and Rec?
need to have one at least every 3 months, I think, but we're gonna call one sooner, probably in the next month, so that we can stay on top of this and stuff with the pool and also other
right.
things. It's
Yeah, great.
relevant
So whatever
before
information
ground
comes
breaks.
out of that, if you don't mind letting me know, and I'd be happy to add it also into their Public Works.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Yep,
Thank
thank you. All right, the next item was under Councilwoman Jermaine. She is not here, but she has asked us to continue this. Bill Rose, if you don't mind just continuing at her bulleted item for next month's Public Works agenda. That being said, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned. We'll be starting the Ordinance Committee in 5 minutes. It's 7:15, 7:20. All right. Right, good evening. Welcome to the Ordinance Committee meeting Thursday, January 11th.
Start the meeting.
To the clerk, can you please take a roll call?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
No, hear me now? You can hear me? Okay,
Mic check 1, 2, 2, 2.
all right. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry, there was a motion, there was a second? Any discussion? Nope. Through the clerk, can you please take a roll call on that?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next item, I'm sorry, there's another approval of minutes of the December 19, 2023, third. There a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, to the clerk, please take a roll call.
Council Vice President Vargas, Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. On to the next items. Committee business matters carried over. We have 9-23, that is ordinance and amendment of Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.36.010 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Industrial Uses, sponsored by Council President Marino. Is a vote to be taken. This was continued from November and December. Is there a motion to approve?
If I could,
Actually, Council President, go for it.
Sure, thank you, Chairwoman. With respect to this ordinance, I did work with the solicitor, who also spoke with the administration. And this evening, what I would like to do is make a motion to amend with some amendments to the ordinance. And then I would like to continue the matter to next month's ordinance committee meeting in order to, in the interim, give the administration an opportunity to address the fiscal impact of the ordinance. That's the intention this evening. So if I could make a motion to amend this evening, and I believe the clerk has passed out to everyone the amendments, which are in a yellow highlight this evening.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to amend line 32 so that it reads after the word industrial or commercial.
Council President, are we doing these one by one? Okay. Perfect.
All right.
Go right ahead.
And also amend on line 38 after the word industrial so that it reads or commercial. Line 50, line 49, at the end, insert a comma, and then continuing onto line 50, add the words commercial operations. Down to line 53. I did it again, sorry. Line 52, at the end, add the word or, and then on line 53, add the word commercial. Line 58, after the word industrial, add the words or commercial. On line 63, add the sentence, this process shall not be required with regard to conforming uses in zones C1, C2, C3, and C4. Line 79, after the word industrial, add the words or commercial. Lines 174, after the words heat and glare, remove the language in C5 and M1 districts, that would be removed. And then the sentence will continue with any industrial, and it will have the addition of the words or commercial. And it would just continue operation, et cetera. And that is the motion.
Second that.
Okay.
Any discussion? Motion on the floor. It's been seconded through the clerk. Can you please take a roll call on the motion?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And now if I could make a motion to continue this to next month's ordinance meeting.
Motion to continue?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none to the clerk, can you please take a roll on that?
So Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The motion. Sorry.
Through the-
ordinance is
through the chair, if I
continued.
may.
Oh, sorry, yes.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I would like to make a suggestion to this committee and to all the committee chair people and each and every committee, whenever we need a fiscal note or whenever a fiscal note is required. And the reason I'm saying that, I was going to send out a group email to everyone. And the reason for it is because it seems that this is an issue that keeps popping up all the time. And the last time it got a little bit heated, you might say, in terms of whose responsibility is it to request it? How is it done? What are the logistics, so on and so forth. And we end up spinning our wheels. We waste a lot of time. There's some finger pointing. Sometimes the fiscal note isn't obtained. We have to continue things. So I just want to, at this point, I want to take this opportunity because now is the perfect time to do this. And I just want to relate to you the process that's delineated in the charter, because obviously that's what we've got to follow. So I'm skipping down under section, under title 3.04.030, which fiscal note to be attached to certain ordinances and resolution. Now, what it says, and this is the only language I feel is really pertinent. It says this about fiscal notes. It says fiscal notes shall be requested by the members of a committee upon receipt by the committee of any ordinance or resolution. Requests shall be in such form and substance as may be required by the members of any committee. So this is up to all of you. And shall be made to the Director of Finance, who shall determine the department or departments affected by such ordinance or resolution. The Director of Finance shall then be responsible in cooperation with such department or departments for preparation of the fiscal note. So this is my request going forward, starting tonight. We should do it right now. I would like someone to make a motion to request a fiscal note for President Marino's ordinance, second it, vote on it. Then we will be in compliance with the procedure outlined in the charter, and there will be no more disputes. Once this is done, it's a matter of record, it's in black and white, and then it's going to be up to, once that's done, it now shifts over to the administration to comply with the requirements of the ordinance, as it is the responsibility of the committee to comply. And I'm hoping what this will do is this will remove the back and forth and the uncertainty of, well, where's the fiscal note? Who was supposed to get it? Who was supposed to ask for it? Now we have a procedure in place going forward. And and this is the way it should be done. And this benefits everyone, because now we've got a date, we've got a time when it was requested, what was requested. So that's going to remove all of the finger pointing, all of the uncertainty, all the second guessing is going to be removed from the table. So I think that this is very beneficial for the committee, for the council, and for the administration. So I strongly suggest we implement this tonight going forward.
Thank you, Attorney Radecchia. Recommendation noted. I also see our attorney, Stephen Angel, Attorney Angel, you have the floor.
Thank you. I mean, historically, the practice has changed in Cranston over time. At least in the time that I've been here, we've seen a departure from this. There's been an understanding that a fiscal note would be provided in most circumstances that require the expenditure of funds or that there's a fiscal impact on the city. That said, the charter specifically says that it's the responsibility of the committee to ensure that the fiscal note is triggered. So let's do it. Let's go back. Let's go back to the basics that have been set forth. It will stop a lot of the back and forth. That said, however, the council should note that there are any number of other departures that have been made from the charter in the time that I've been here. And, if we're going to get back to basics, we're going to get back to all of them, which includes notices of special meetings, for example. Notices of special meetings are required to be delivered in hand, not by email, unless it's changed in the charter. And I believe that we had an amendment to that effect. And if I'm not mistaken, that it passed. Maybe Attorney Padecchia has a better memory than I do on that. But if that hasn't been changed, then we need to follow that too. We need to follow all of the nuances in the charter. So let's begin with this one. It will certainly cut down on confusion and time spent talking about these things. And I'm in agreement with the recommendation as it's stated.
Thank you, Attorney Angel. That being said, is there a motion?
I'll entertain a motion for a fiscal note required for ordinance of the City Council and amendment of Title 17 zoning chapter 17.36.010 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Industrial Uses.
Did you say-
Second.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Did you say fiscal note on there? Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you say that. I apologize. Okay, there's a motion, second, any discussion? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Radecchia. All right. Next item, it brings some public comment. Is there anyone here in the chamber that would like to docketed items on the ordinance? All right. Tom, I think,
Yeah,
we're
there's
pretty
no
good, right?
public comment.
Right, appreciate it. There's no public comment on Zoom. Public comment is now closed. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, that is new matters before the committee. Next item, it is 11-2301. Ordinance and amendment of Title 10, Chapter 32, Section 225 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinance 2005 entitled No Parking, Commercial Vehicles, sponsored by Councilman Campo Viano. I think I said that right? All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Council member?
Thank you, Madam President. I don't know if this requires a physical note, but this came up earlier in the year, the problem with parking on Kenwood, and the same thing is going on Amplex Drive. I spoke to Major Padalano, and on Amplex Drives, it's at the end of 295, and they feel because it's secluded, they're parking trailers there with no tractors on them, which is illegal. They're parking tractors themselves there overnight and for weeks on end, and it's hurting the businesses in that area. calls from the people in that area, and also, it hurts with the snow plowing. So, that's what's all. I hope it passes tonight.
Thank you. That being said, it looks like this may need a fiscal note. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm wondering on signage perhaps? Or are we aware, at what point, at this point, do we then decide what fiscal? note we need?
Actually, the signs are there.
They are there.
They are.
They're already up.
They're already up. Okay.
I guess we put the cart before the horse here.
Madam Chair, it does raise an interesting question, however. I know that Councilman Campopiano said in jest, does it require a fiscal note? And I'm laughing because Attorney Videcchia and I can remember some instances from 25 years ago when a certain administration refused to put up stop signs because they claimed they didn't have the money in the budget. So as we move forward through these types of things, the council may consider an amendment to its code of ordinances relative to what is a de minimis expenditure of funds with respect to a request in an ordinance. Probably something John and I need to talk about a little bit, but John, I'm sure you remember those days.
Steve, you sure that was about money? No, Steve's point is very well taken. I think his suggestion is a great idea. Perhaps we should put some threshold on that, because my feeling, I was going to say that unless it's what I would call a material expenditure of funds, and, you know, as a typical lawyer, I don't define that. What is material? That probably just confuses the issue more, but perhaps, I don't know, Steve, $2,500, something in line with what's considered a petty expense for financial purposes. Perhaps the director of finance can give us some direction what they consider petty funds, so to speak.
Well,
But that's a good idea.
the issue becomes too that, you can grind government to a halt by standing in the way of council people being able to provide services to their constituents. So is it on a case-by-case basis, or is it the cumulative impact? I know that this group has debated the cost of, blinking lights at crosswalks, and, I don't know, there was a bill of $17,000. It certainly isn't a small bill. But if it comes to a stop sign or a no parking sign, I don't think that should hold up an ordinance, the cost of a sign, but it really is up to the council and the administration to get together on whether or not it's a cumulative impact that they'd consider, or a case-by-case basis. I don't know, but, certainly the council can pass judgment on something and override the fiscal impact if it chooses to do so in certain circumstances, but obviously you can't do it in such a way that you have a knowing effect of creating an overrun of cost in the budget for an unbudgeted expense, right? So we have a few guardrails on this one.
Thank you, Attorney Angel. Council President Marino.
Thanks. In the interim, and like, for example, for tonight, wouldn't I defer to Attorney Angel and Solicitor Videcchia on this? Should we maybe perhaps just go through the motion of doing a motion to send it for a fiscal note, and the administration can have at the ready, there is no fiscal impact, a one sentence thing, submits it back to the committee, we check the box, and we're safe going forward.
That's not a bad idea either. I think at this point in time, Steve,
that's a good idea.
It's up to the committee. I mean, however you people feel, that's not a bad idea. At least this way we know, look, it's covered. If it's needed, fine. Better to have it if it's needed than not have it, and it's needed. So we don't need it. The administration could submit a one sentence, no fiscal impact to the city. Done.
Or they can say, well, it depends. And then we're opening up a can of
Well,
worms too, right? Councilmember Velasquez.
Thanks.
And then
2 points. One, I know the signs are already there. Councilman Campopiano just put this in to bring it into compliance. So there really isn't going to be a fiscal impact on this. And then years ago, we debated this very thing here in the council. And I don't know if you were our attorney then. I think Patty O'Neill was our solicitor at the time. We do the signs in-house, stop signs, you know, no parking signs. They have sign blanks. They cut the material in the house. There's really no cost to it. Our guys are working anyway. I'm not speaking for the director. I'm just saying that that's the process that we talked about years ago. So stuff like this, I really don't think we need it, but I'm not on this committee. I don't have a vote and just want to give my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just have a question, Attorney Videcchia or Attorney Angel. I know that I don't believe it's in the charter now, or if we would have to do something through an ordinance, but similar to how we have to obtain a traffic study for stop signs and things of that nature, and there's a limit, a time, I think it's 90 days, correct me if it's 60, that they have to return that traffic study. Should we perhaps consider an amount of days in order to get a fiscal note back? Otherwise, like Attorney Angel just said, it could essentially be used to kind of hold things up. And I'm just curious if anyone has an appetite for that, just looking around the room, but how would we do that? Would that be through ordinance?
Madam Chair, if I can, that is a dangerous path to go down when it comes to a fiscal note. Because, for example, let's assume that the council was considering putting a new wing on City Hall. I know that's ridiculous, but bear with me. And the administration failed to provide a fiscal note. Does that mean it automatically happens and the expense gets done? Regardless of what you say in your charter or your code of ordinances, state law and municipal finance is abundantly clear. You may not knowingly, and your charter says this as well, you may not knowingly in a fiscal year as a legislative body overspend your budget. So there is a limit to that. I don't know that it's so much the lapse of time, perhaps. Perhaps the lapse of time, we could figure it out where if 2 successive committee meetings don't go by and there's no fiscal note, then the committee may vote to send it out of committee to the floor of the council, at which time the council can take it up with the administration as to the non-existence of a fiscal note. That keeps it moving. That keeps, that puts things on the floor of the council. I would say that for a de minimis expense like signs, and I'm glad that former council president Paplowskis gave us the history on how signs are made. I think that's important. Most cities and towns don't make their own. But I think that, so in this case, it's a de minimis expense of materials and time and so forth. I don't think anybody's going to argue that, you're going to overrun a $327 million budget by putting up signs and doing some other things. So it just bears a little more thought perhaps, but in this case, it's of no moment really. So.
Thank you, Attorney. I
Madam
don't want to digress from the subject, which is the ordinance in itself, which doesn't require a fiscal note. And I'm wondering if perhaps conversations about fiscal notes or not could possibly be entertained by the chairman of the Finance Committee.
It's a great idea.
Right, great. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. So this being said, so there's a motion and there's a second. There's obviously discussion already on the ordinance. Let's take if there's no further discussion on this, I'd like to go ahead and take a roll.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Motion passes. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All again, say yay, nay, or nays, okay? Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.